What no colonies does to a motherfucker. I was already wearing a tank top and didn't feel like changing. The UK is in trouble, and it's not because they all woke up British this morning. Well, I mean, that's part of it, but a lot of it comes from the fact that their new military vehicle is literally falling apart just from turning it on. That's bad, by the way. Today, we'll be talking about the sorta brand new Ajax armored fighting vehicle. What it's supposed to do, what it does instead, and if it's actually as bad as the evil, corrupt media actually makes it out to be. Funny accent, the like and subscribe button, and let's talk about it. This is the Ajax, the new, not a tank, but looks like a tank thing for the British military. On paper, it is a cutting-edge vehicle armed and armored to the teeth. However, they are reportedly so poorly built that if you ride in one, it shakes so much that it literally makes everyone inside of it throw up from motion sickness, while the vehicle itself just starts to disintegrate. I need to emphasize how much a military vehicle has to shake in order for it to be actually considered a problem. Because if you're riding in any modern military vehicle, from a helicopter to a truck to a tank, and you are going faster than a literal snail's pace, it feels like you are in a space capsule that is re-entering the atmosphere. Having your vehicle shake so much that your vision looks like this is considered normal. So I really need you to appreciate how shaky the Ajax actually is. Performing a mechanized assault is hard enough these days, so making the troops in the back of the Vic nauseous is just evil at that point. I'm still afraid that I'm underselling this. See, the Ajax failed what's called the Whole Body Vibration Test, or WBV. It is literally how much a vehicle is allowed to shake while in operation. It wasn't just that average soldiers were complaining like they always do that riding in these is uncomfortable. They were literally being sent to the hospital because of this, and many suffered permanent hearing damage. So with that in mind, let's dive a little bit more into this vehicle. The Ajax is a traditional style, not tank armored fighting vehicle, designed to replace the old scimitars the Brits have been driving around since the 70s. These are primarily heavy reconnaissance and support vehicles. They look like infantry fighting vehicles, but their job isn't to carry troops into a fight. They're mostly there for screening operations in front of larger tank formations, and simultaneously engage targets as needed with their cannons. That cannon specifically is a CTA-40, CTA being the company that designed it, and 40 indicating that it is a 40mm cannon. S apparently just stands for system, because they felt the need to throw in another letter into that acronym. But these were designed specifically to fire telescoped ammo, which lets you carry more ammo while using a little less space to do so. These encase the actual round into the casing itself, and let the overall system be a little bit more compact. Sounds good in theory, but more on how they screwed that part up later. Along with that, you'll get an L94A1 coax if you hate having fun and want to avoid target overkill. Unlike other AFVs, they do not have organic anti-tank capabilities, but they are being tested out with remotely fired javelins, kind of like the American Crow's J system. Developed by the UK branch of General Dynamics, the Ajax is a development of the ASCOD II AFV, currently in use by the Austrian and Spanish militaries alike. Now, one would think that if you combine a company that makes tanks for a living and a vehicle that already exists and is in active service to other countries, it would be a no-brainer formula for a platform that at least does what it's advertised to do. But you would be wrong, just how I was when I thought she didn't just love me for my mustache. Honestly, could have left out the last 3 words of that sentence. But despite the already established success of the ASCOD, somehow everyone managed to monumentally fuck up the Ajax. The Ajax started life under the Future Rapid Effects Systems Specialist Vehicle, which later turned into the Ajax program with an E because the UK is an unserious country. I find it hypocritical for them to add extra letters to things and then make fun of the French for doing the exact same thing. Now, the actual requirements of the Ajax are classified, and because my government handler is in the CIA and not MI6, I couldn't find them anywhere. But the general idea was that it is a heavy recon vehicle. Now, that might sound like a dumb idea in the world of ISR drones, and it is, kinda, but keep in mind that this program started in 2001, back when the biggest threat we were facing were Boeing 767s, not FPV quadcopters. The idea at the time, at least, was that super light scouts, think dudes with binoculars or guys in armored cars, were too vulnerable. If your scouts get blasted the second they pop up over a hill because Ivan finally got a good set of thermals on his tank, they are not useful, because they're dead and stuff. But if you stick said scout in an armored vehicle, they can actually survive long enough to provide useful information. There is still some merit to this before you go sicko mode in the comment section, so just bear with me for a second. This idea started in the Balkan Wars of the mid-90s, where instead of the flat sprawl of Poland like they were expecting to fight the Cold War in, British scout vehicles were getting wrecked with RPGs, mines, and even standard machine gun fire in complex and often urban environments. They wanted a tougher scout that could do a little bit of everything. If you have a recon Vic that has some decent armor and firepower, you also lower the need for them to get saved or recovered by QRF forces, which is a big deal because they're going to be far out and ahead of everyone else in very dangerous areas more than likely. I know, outdated thinking. We will address that, I promise. Just stay with me for a little bit longer. By 2010, the British settled on the Ascot II to be the basis of their new vehicle platform, awarding it £5.5 billion, or $7.3 billion US dollars in today's money, to General Dynamics. The Ascot II was the sequel to Ascot I, first presented back in 2004. It stands for Austrian-Spanish Cooperation Development, as the two countries both went in on this vehicle. Ascot started life as a general vehicle platform that could be reconfigured to serve a lot of different roles for mostly militaries wanting a decent but cheap way of upgrading their armies. You'll generally find these in an IFV configuration with an autocannon on top, or a PC configuration with an unmanned 50 cal. The infantry fighting vehicle version would do as most IFVs do and carry troops into a fight and then provide heavy supporting fire on the actual objective, while the APC version with a heavy machine gun would generally be for supporting roles that need some decent protection but don't expect to be in the thick of it 24/7. Ascots with unmanned turrets can carry up to 11 soldiers split between crew and passengers, but specific numbers of people you can carry depends on which of the dozen or so variants people are playing around with at the moment. But these were designed to do a little bit of everything, from being engineering vehicles, ambulances, light tanks, recon Vics, and that's great and all, but that's where our problems begin. Anytime you try to build a do-everything piece of military equipment, it will probably have a host of issues. Hyper-specialized stuff in your army isn't that great either. It creates redundancies and is overly expensive while making logistics hard, but having clear focuses and roles for things is important. The Ascot is, by all accounts, fine. It serves the purpose that it was intended to perform plenty well with minimal complaints, and that's why developments and purchases of it continue. But again, when you take a general-purpose platform and then force it to do a very specific niche task, you're gonna run into some issues like the Brits are. One of the biggest differences between the Ascot II and the Ajax is that the Ajax is heavy as shit for what it is. Not surprising when the UK operates the heaviest NATO tank out there. You would think that an island nation would be more cognizant that getting heavy things off of said island is super annoying, but I digress. The Ascot started life as a troop carrier, meaning a hull and suspension system tuned for that role specifically. That means low center of gravity, a more even weight distribution, and moderate turret load, so to speak. The Brits wanted something that could take a bit more punishment, as if being British wasn't punishment enough. They wanted the Ajax to be able to withstand hits from rounds as big as 40mm, which is not an insignificant task. They also wanted improved mine and IED protection than what was already offered, meaning that not only was the traditional front and side armor beefed up, but the bottom as well. This led to heavier armor, hull reinforcements to handle the added weight, which also makes it heavier, increased spall lining, again more weight, and other structural changes to handle an increase in mass, which also leads to more weight. I'm sure you're picking up a pattern here. So why does this thing shake harder than my last Tinder date fighting withdrawals at the dinner table? Well, when you make a hull heavier, you have to make the structure stiffer. When you make the structure stiffer, it's gonna vibrate more. If all the UK wanted to do was add armor, they would have gotten more shaking, but probably within acceptable margins. But that is not all that they did. No. Because this was a recon vehicle. Therefore, they added every sensor you can imagine. Improved thermal imagers, high bandwidth data links, extra cameras, and every kind of computer you could possibly want on a modern battlefield, and probably a few you wouldn't. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, and electronics are significantly lighter than adding inches of steel to the side of your vehicle, but it creates a massive power demand, produces a lot of heat, and adds internal complexity to everything. But just like a neglected baby, electronics die if they get too hot or you decide to shake them too hard. Eventually, one day, we will invent a human baby that can withstand being left in the back of a car seat on a hot summer's day. Evolution will make this happen, we just have to keep trying. Ascots were built with the idea that electronics could be easily swapped and upgraded, but they originally didn't expect the Brits to try to shove a server's worth of stuff into it. But the real kicker, no pun intended, difference between the two is the gun. The Ajax uses the 40mm CTAS. This cannon in particular was a joint venture between the Brits and the French, aka the source of basically everyone's problems if you go back far enough. For the French, you'll find these chunky gad pieces on their new EBRC Jaguar vehicles, which in a loose way is just their version of what the Ajax is supposed to be in a doctoral sense. On top of that, the French like the gun, so you would think that it would work just fine. You would think wrong though, dear viewer, but don't feel bad though, I kind of backed you into a corner on that one's on me. While the overall turret package and weapon system is compact, that also makes it dense, and when you make a dense but high caliber gun, there isn't a lot of space for that 40mm recoil to go. That leads to a pretty unforgiving jolt when you fire a round, and when your cannon has said unforgiving jolt, you have to reinforce things like the gun mount and turret ring, and guess what? That also adds weight. So after all that, you're left with a hull originally designed for 30 tons now being well over 40, which combined with the CTAS gun means increasing structural rigidity and suspension, and now you get a vehicle so shaky and hot that you get troops inside becoming casualties just driving from A to B. Currently, as of me making this video still, the investigations are underway, though there have been some official video leaks from the troops pointing out some issues. Regardless of nationality, a service member will always find a way to bitch, and that's what I love about them so much. The UK's Ministry of Defence with a C is even being hush-hush about this in parliamentary hearings so far. One official just flat out claimed that the Ajax was, quote, undeployable, and I only really added that quote in because that guy's name was Ben Obese Chekti, and that is an objectively funny name. But it seems it's not just the design changes that led to problems. Allegedly, the vehicles were just built shittily. Screws not screwed, bolts not bolted, and those that were just seemingly there for decoration. Another issue came about from the rear ramp. See, hydraulic ramps on armored vehicles are great because you can get a big armored door for people to run in and out of and not worry that a human is not strong enough to lift it. However, they will also literally crush you to death. The Ajax on paper has an emergency shutoff to prevent said crushing injuries, but apparently that capability stayed on paper only after several testing dummies got crushed. It's worth mentioning that these doors don't have manual quick releases as safety features, and it took the entire crew 15 minutes to get the door unfucked. The insane amount of electronics shoved into this thing also led to power issues. Batteries drain and die even when the engine is actively charging them, the auxiliary power unit breaks down all the time, and apparently troops now have to just carry extra batteries for the vehicle instead of extra ammo and other things. The fuel tanks apparently fail all the time, leaving gas readings on empty unexpectedly in the middle of nowhere. And so much water accumulates in the hull when it rains that the crew can, quote, wash their hands from the inside, which seems like a very British thing to do. When the first 4 Ajax left the factory to conduct test firing with their turrets, the first 3 had so many issues from track problems and missing sight systems that only 1 was able to fire, and it only managed to fire off 10. Now, how true this next accusation is, I don't know. It sounds a little hyperbolic to me, to say the least. But apparently, even if everything on this vehicle was perfect and worked as intended, it would not matter, because the technical documentation for this thing is 20,000 pages long. For reference, that is the same length as the 20-volume Oxford English Dictionary. Back when I was in, I couldn't even get a single Bradley crew to read a one-line text telling them where to go and at what time in the motor pool. So telling a crew to read 20,000 pages of a technical manual is about as futile as trying to stop the sun from rising in the morning. All that is to say is that the Ajax as it stands is an absolute nightmare, even when it's not literally sending troops to the hospital. But let's put on our hypothetical metaphorical thinking caps here for a second, because there have been calls to just cancel the program entirely and sue the absolute bejesus out of General Dynamics in order to make up for lost taxpayer dollars. But let's pretend that the vehicle works just fine within acceptable operating parameters. Is it still worth putting effort into? Is the concept of a heavy recon something we just should have left behind in the Cold War? Well, like everything I talk about on this channel, it depends. Recon in every form is primarily done with drones these days, and the UK is already dumping money into plans to fill the ranks with flying robot things. As we've also seen heavy vehicles forward of the main force with minimal support are target numero uno for the flying exploding menace. But still, countries like France, Belgium, and the UK are pushing for these kinds of platforms. Now, those other countries have avoided the engineering pitfalls by actually using their brains when designing their own vehicles, but that's a topic for another time. Although advertised for reconnaissance, these aren't just looking for things in a big operation or something. Their high-caliber cannon that can fire long distances is absolutely devastating, and can basically kill anything that is not an actual tank. This allows them to still be pushed forward of a main body and keep targets busy, while the bigger force behind them pulls a sexy little maneuver or two. There's generally not a situation where a 40mm cannon is not useful, so even if it's not needed for scouting missions specifically, it's fairly useful for basically everything else, and has enough armor to stay in the fight for a decent amount of time. With the right tactics and careful planning, it has the potential to be incredibly effective, and not just a sacrifice to the drone gods. High-caliber autocannons are fantastic for infantry support, which this platform would without a doubt perform. And despite the Everest-sized mountain of technical issues, it still looks cool, so there is that to consider. But also, as I've said in other videos, not every war is Ukraine. Generally speaking, these kinds of armored vehicles are really good for sporadic and lower intensity conflicts abroad than actual tanks, and the increased armor protection allows it to remain better protected in less well-defined environments. The fact that yes, it is heavy as shit, but still nearly half the weight of the UK's main battle tank, the Challenger, means it's easier to ship it to some second or third world country and start sending local freedom fighters home in Ziploc baggies. So while the original strategy behind it is several decades too late, the concept behind the platform is still pretty useful in other areas. That said, I have a very strong feeling we're about to see an end date on the Ajax's Wikipedia page in the near future. But not from me, I'm banned from editing on Wikipedia now. But on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe and I will see you in the next one.